Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Omega Files. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom, and tonight we've gathered to talk about the third episode of Series 12, Orphan 55, where we've been whisked off to a tranquility spa that seemingly is not very tranquil. But okay, I want to hear what you guys are going to weigh in on this thing with. So I'm going to start at the bottom this time. Let's start with Beefhead. Beef, what did you think of Orphan 55?
I'm sort of a bit of puzzled, to be honest with you. And this is Ed Himes' second episode that he's done. And it's sort of like, I've seen this trick before, to be honest with you. It's like the same thing if you watched The Sixth Sense or something like that. Yeah, it starts off at something else, then switches by the end of it, and you're thinking, what the bloody hell? My interest sort of died about the same time as Benny, because up until that point, it was an interesting story. It was shot really well. It was a base under siege. You didn't really see much of the monsters, so it really added to the tension. Up to that point, it was really good. Then it sort of got a bit silly, for want of a better term. And, obviously hearing contains spoilers if Brian hasn't already told you. It transpires that it's Earth. And then you have a really sloppily written again, wound up resolution, a mind read. The Doctor talks a lot explains everything that's going on. So also it was a little bit like the Sarangu conundrum, because you were struggling to give people enough things to do. And then you get a very talky at you ending, to be honest with you, without actually offering a positive resolution. It's just, hey, you just screwed up your Earth. Trees ain't going to save you this time. And it did. It just sort of fell apart. And it was actually disappointing, because I think in there was a really good story. Like It Takes You Away, when you got there and you had the sound in the forest and you had the house, and you had a similar sort of story there. It had the idea of being perhaps something good, but just fell apart trying to be clever. So it was disappointing. We did think that was going to be it. It was disappointing.
All right, let's move over to Lady Neo.
Hello, everyone. This episode, it was decent. It was very decent. I'd have to agree with Beef on some parts, but the camera angles though. The camera angles were really good, especially with the monsters, like that whole teeth thing and everything. That was really good. I like that. The comedy bits, lack thereof, was good. Let's see what else. The cause of the incident was kind of lame. I'm sorry, family issues. I've seen that before. Yada yada yada. That was lame. I wish it was something bigger than that. Let's see. It's like Trouble in Paradise. But overall, it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just okay.
William.
As an old commentator that used to do the Omega Files, I want to copy a line from him. It was shit. Let me explain, son. I felt just like Ryan did in the beginning of the story. Only thing I didn't do was suck my thumb, because I got confused after a certain point. First, we find out that the girl that Ryan was talking to is the daughter of the military chick that was in charge of that nonsense there. Then she pops up near the end when we all thought she died. I'm like, wait a minute, they made no that. I was gonna say a profanity. Let's just say that's another confusion right there. Then we find out that the whole place is Earth, and then those of us who seen a lot of episodes of Doctor Who know certain timeline of the future of certain places that's been going on. And then instead of it being like the doctor explaining this is a possible timeline, it can it's hard to explain. It cannot be a possible timeline. It's supposed to be a timeline. The only thing she's supposed to prevent is either a destruction, a death, or an attack. Not trying to prevent that history from taking place. It's already a done deal. Because those of us who've seen Doctor Who notice that yes, we've seen the Doctor change history in certain spots like that, especially to save Gallifrey, but to this thing that this thing is the Earth destroyed by itself, which unusual considering how many times it's been attacked by alien forces and all that. That's weird right there. Yeah, we saw like I said, like the little comedy with Ryan had to suck his thumb from he don't get dizzy and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty good in the beginning like that. But it just lets me confused, man. I just don't understand this. Like people saying, yeah, it was a lot of time trying to explain certain things, and of course the child that was the mechanic, and in a certain scene, all of a sudden no, he wasn't believed, and he had a sort of like a hissy fit, and then had to waste time looking for him, for he could use the little worm thing that was that attack right in the beginning to fix everything, and it doesn't really explain where that little wormy thing comes from, whether it was because I had to ask before we started recording this, and it turned out to be it's not a biological thing, it's a mechanical thing. So who made it? It couldn't be those creatures that was attacking everybody because they don't have the technology to do anything. So that made no sense right there. I wish maybe when this comes out on DVD, they could do somebody could do a commentator and explain more of this episode. It left me mad confused. I mean, yeah, you can say it's supposed to be showing about the greed of mankind caused this kind of destruction. So no, I can't. Even though she's the doctor saying that, I can't believe it. She had no proof to back that up. That what happened to that thing was caused by mankind itself. Because all these times that she's supposed to be having, the doctor and companions are doing the best for humankind, and telling them that over and over and over and over and over again for almost 60 years, that means it went for nothing. Because that means that the inevitable happened and the earth destroyed itself. So all that talk the doctor was doing for all these people to make the best of it, and to make for the successful of mankind, went down the toilet. Like I said, I wish they could do a commentator to explain this, because they left me mad confused, and I did not like the way it ended. Because even though they went back home, she had a bloody TARDIS, man. Go back and find out what happened to everybody else. What the hell? It just left me confused. As the commentator who used to do Omega Far way back, it was shit. That's it for now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about the ending there. If it's like you've got the teleport cube and all that, couldn't you just go back there and rescue those two? That was one of my points about this whole thing. I'm like, it's not like they were trapped on in another dimension. It's not like they were somewhere where they couldn't get to. They know they're in the future. They know what planet they're on. It's like, why not go save them? That was one of my complaints about it. Well, okay, let's go to Graham. I want to hear what Graham has to say about this thing.
Well. So much for the 10 out of 10 brigade. I've got to agree with Beef to a certain degree on this. This started off really, really, really well. The designs on the dreads were fantastic. You had the eerie atmospheric setting. The base under siege story has been done to death, but it really started off well, even the aspects of comedy with Ryan and all that. Then, oh God, the reveal happened. And in the words of Troy McClure, it was our fault all along. And the dregs are actually a byproduct of global warming, and they're actually humans in the future. Yeah. Social commentary is all well and good to a point, but when you, especially in 2020, with the internet behind it, start to integrate it into a show like this, you're doing nothing but giving the naysayers of this current regime a branding iron, a pistol, and a whip to lambast this show for the next 7 days with. Congratulations, folks. You've just earned a hell of a lot of people a hell of a lot of ad money for the next week on YouTube. I hope you're proud of yourself, Ed Hines. And I'll get in the middle later.
Whereas I was just thinking, you've set up the stake and you've given them an unlimited supply of Bridgeford charcoal. Okay. Josh, what do you think about Orphan 55?
I liked the whole idea of the drugs. I thought that they were interesting with the whole breathing in carbon dioxide and then producing oxygen thing. And I thought the whole story was really weird and really out there, which is what Ed Heim is kind of known for, because It Takes You Away was kind of the same deal. But the minute that it was discovered that it was Earth, it kind of just made me tune out a little bit, and especially at the end with how on the nose and preachy the doctor was to basically say, you know, humanity screwed up, and I can't. I think she even said something like, I can't control humanity and you guys are the ones that messed up, and you know, you can change it, you can change the future or whatever. And I don't ever recall Doctor Who being that like on the nose and being like, you know, you were the ones that screwed up, like, because the Doctor has always been like pro-humanity, and I don't really recall a story where the Doctor has ever been like, you know, this is where y'all screwed up. But I might just not be remembering. But that kind of just got me out of the whole Doctor Who thing. And it just tried to push an agenda way too hard. And like Graham was saying, it just gives the people that already don't like this era, it gives them so much ammunition to be like, you know, see, we told you, and all this stuff, when the season itself has been good and Jodie Whittaker's run has been good, but this episode kind of just killed it for me. So I hope they don't have like a lot of messages like that in the future, because it was kind of off-brand for the show and for Doctor Who, at least for me.
Yeah, it's like also the bit I got to mention right now before I forget it was, you know, Laura Fraser's character. You know, I think her name was Kane. How many here have seen the movie Top Secret? Anybody remember the name of the character of that guy who kept every now and then he'd suddenly appear like he was supposed to be dead, and then you'd give him some cryptic message, and then all of a sudden he'd be dead, and then all of a sudden he'd wander into the scene and fall over, and he'd give him like this dying message. That's what it started to remind me of.
Latrine! What happened?
It's like, come on, she's been thrown, she's been killed, but that's just what popped into my head. Was, I think, was it Latrine or something like that, name of the character, something like that? But oh well. Okay, Philip.
It was a very weak episode to come straight after two possible episodes, and I don't know why they did that. They should have stopped that in the middle somewhere in the run and carried on with the rise of how the stories go. This one kind of reminded me of, as I said before on social media, I said it kind of reminded me of Starship Troopers on a you know, on a very small budget. The monsters were good, but I just felt like all that kind of cutaway shots to them wasted time, and the monsters themselves, what they were called, the monsters themselves, they didn't really do, all they did was just stand there roaring their heads off. You didn't really get any real, although there were kills off screen, I would have liked to see them actually doing something rather than just standing going, rah, rah. So that was a bit poor on my part. And then you got the old biddy screaming for her husband every 5 minutes. Benny this, Benny that, Benny everywhere. And it's like, okay, he's dead, yeah, forget about him. The parental stuff with, what's her name, Belle and Kane, that's a bit annoying because that also went with the boy, Silas, and his dad. Because it was like Ed Himes got parent issues, because that's all he did. He did that with the other story he did about the blind girl and the dad. So that's another rehash. The story itself was a bit bland, and it did like what Josh said. It's rather like Ravalox, with the reveal of the planet being Earth itself in the far future being spoilt by human endeavors. Well, it's going to happen. Ryan was they chose Ryan to be the idiot again by accidentally getting himself choked up with a thing, and Graham was okay in this, but he didn't get much to do. Right, Yaz, okay, Yaz was Yaz as usual, but overall, I didn't really enjoy the story. It was a bit bland, and it was a bit too predictable myself.
Let's move up to Texas Tim.
Well, I thought this started out really well, like has been said by a couple of you guys. And I guess I would talk about what I did like about it. You mentioned Laura Fraser. She's always good. For once, she got to use her real accent rather than put on a false one. The set design was really good in this. The place looked great. The special effects were pretty good. The direction was very good, very well handled. But it was all ruined by the end of it. I mean, the end of it was terrible. I mean, we don't need to be preached at. The woke left leaves no room for argument in this whole stupid nonsense about global warming, okay? We all know that climate change is real, because guess what? Every day is different from the previous one or the next one. You have a different climate all the time. I mean, and I'm not even gonna deny global warming. I'm just saying that the problem is that, once again, there's no room for argument. It's not like, let's discuss this, or let's talk about what may or may not happen in the future. It's all like, no, the facts are in, it's settled science. We're not going to talk about this anymore. And if you don't go along with us, you're going to get canceled. So this is just, I don't like to be preached at by Doctor Who. I mean, they used to do this their own way, but they were a lot more subtle about it. I mean, because here's the thing, the Doctor has seen the end of the world. He took Rose to see the end of the world in episode 2. I mean, that was great. I mean, also, what about, the Ark in space? Mankind had left the planet to go hang out in the Ark and wait for the planet to reform itself into something habitable. So this is a possible future, and that's fine. And you can do this all the time. In Doctor Who, they do this all the time. But it's just, no. They're so ballsy about the ending too, as well. They're like, okay, if you don't change your ways, this is what you're gonna get, and it switches to the last shot of a monster. You're like, okay, yeah, okay, we get your point. Hashtag Orange Man bad. So it's just nonsense, and they really ruined what was potentially a good story. Because it started out really well. It made you think of things like The Leisure Hive or Nightmare of Eden, those kind of stories. Nothing new there, but I'm just saying, where you have a situation where something gets out of control and the monsters are unleashed, and that's always fun. But this was completely ruined by that. Not to mention, the guest characters were all just like made out of 100% cardboard. They were their plot devices. That's it. Oh, our cute little green-haired kid's going to throw a tantrum now, just when we need him the most, so we can go look for him. That kind of thing. Oh, she's your daughter the whole time. That was just kind of stupid. I'm sorry, but this, like I said, the setup was really good. The first 15 minutes or so were really good, and it just descended into this preachy nonsense about how bad we all are if we don't change our ways. So that's all I got now.
Oh, I can agree with you on all that. I can. It started off so well, and then okay, Paul, your turn.
Hello. Yeah, it seems I'm going to have to be a contrast to most of you on this panel, because I actually did enjoy it. I thought it was a good, and now I was explaining to a mate from work that usually you start off with a big opener, like this time we've had the Master and the Burning Gallifrey, and then you have a few normal, ordinary episodes, then something big in the middle, more ordinary, and then something big to end it. And I thought this was a good return to normal, ordinary episode. I like the line about the speedos at the beginning was quite funny. But the woman who they met when they first got there reminded me of a female version of Barf from Spaceballs. What else is the fact, am I right in thinking this is the first time of using the psychic paper? I think that's one thing I noticed. James Buckley did a good job, as usual, but he doesn't suit green hair. I like the nice music. I like this new guy, the music guy. I like his stuff. The chat up scene was quite funny, you know, in the spaceship, the bus, whatever it were. And of course, them things weren't sea devils as people, predicted. I think this is the first time in a while we've heard the line, "When I say run, run." I like that. What else have I got? Yeah, I like the blue lighting on the TARDIS. That seemed to have come back. And I thought there was a good speech at the end myself. I thought it was quite a Doctor-like speech. But I can't understand why you all didn't like it. But yeah, I thought it said Doctor Who to me. Yeah, that's all.
Alrighty. Okay, let's move over to AJ.
Yeah, I agree. This story started oh so well. You know, the giant octopus tentacle. I would have loved to have seen that story instead. You know, it was breeding season for that thing. And then it became a comedy of errors. It just sort of went down from there with a mixture of, you know, Planet of the Apes and the Time Machine, with the dregs becoming, you know, the stand-in for the Morlocks. I love the part where they're on the transport vehicle, where you know, for a minute there it felt like midnight. You know, you got the voice from outside, and you're thinking, "Oh, what the hell's out there now?" Graham, in fact, all the companions sort of felt flatlined this week. I mean, because the action sort of overtook a little bit of all character development, even for the side characters. I don't like being preached to about global warming and all that bollocks. I mean, here in Australia, we have a fire problem right now, and that's not due to global warming. It's been proven. People were setting the fires and they've been arrested for it. I don't know. It just felt so bad. I mean, I've seen Doctor Who episodes in the past with, you know, messages like the Sunmakers with Tom Baker, and, you know, evil corporations and all that. But it was subtle. It was done cleverly. It wasn't, hey, look at this. And, you know, I don't know. It just felt really bad. And then the Doctor talking down to her companions at the end saying, if you guys don't change your way, you're screwed. That doesn't feel right or fair.
All right, I can agree with you on that one. A lot of people were claiming the last series was preachy. The end of this episode, that's preachy. That's what preachy looks like to me. And I just couldn't say. If they had cut that speech off, I might have been able to give this thing another point. Maybe. Okay, but all right, let's move on. Okay, DWC.
It's hard to find anything that people haven't already said. I mean, I certainly did enjoy the beginning, as everyone said. And at first I was thinking, okay, so this is a proper horror movie type aspect sort of thing. They've done that before. They do the usual tropes of having the camera really close up to the monster so you can't quite see it. Thing that the drag that kind of looked like a weevil sort of thing. Just to answer a question you said, Brian, why didn't they teleport back to the TARDIS? I think they did establish that the teleportation pads were kind of broken, so that was kind of it. But a lot of the characters, a lot of this felt like a combination of Voyage of the Damned and Oxygen. I just had those episodes in mind, which did make me think, even though I kind of enjoyed it, at the same time I was like, oh, come on, we've seen these stories before. There's nothing really new. On a bit of a side note, something was kind of pissing me off a little bit, because I'm not exactly a scientist, I'm not a chemist, not a physicist, but if I see something that's annoying me that I know is wrong, I'm gonna have a rant about it. And something they got right and wrong at the same time, because they kept talking about oxygen and we need oxygen to breathe. I'm like, there is a bit in the truck where the truck actually says how our oxygen outside 1%, oxygen inside 21%. That's actually about right. That's right, because air is about 20% oxygen and 80% nitrogen. And it just pissed me off when I'm seeing science fiction. They're always saying, oh, we need oxygen to breathe. In fact, pure oxygen is actually quite lethal. And so a bit near the end, when they have one of the dregs in the room, I've cut off the carbon dioxide, I'm going to pump up all the oxygen to breathe. I thought, that's going to kill you too! But on top of that, as everyone else talked, the idea that it's really preachy, I don't really want to go into episode because Doctor Who has had political messages before. It's done, yeah, it's been subtle, but I'm sure they've done environment stuff because I remember this one episode. I was looking here trying to look for, I think it's the Green Death. Certainly that's a very environmental one. And I don't remember it was this episode, that episode specifically, but I remember the whole thing of Joe Grant being put in a bunker with a lot of other hippie type people. So it's not like they haven't quite done this sort of thing before. And years down the line, it might be looked at in that way. But yeah, equally, you have somewhat given massive, as people said, massive ammunition to the people who just want to complain about it, say complain because it works for their base, and rile up a lot of people who genuinely think that the BBC is some sort of big propaganda machine for the far left. In fact, you've kind of already had this. You sort of just had this with Texas Tim's comments. It's sort of like, oh, I don't want to preach you about a radical left. Oh, Jesus, I don't want to hear about that in one way or the other. And is it good? I don't think it's bad. I don't really want to complain about the idea that we can't have political messages in the show or emphasis. And technically, the reason I would say, the reason they may have been ham-fisting it is because back then, in the 70s order, it wasn't nearly as an issue as it is now. That's why people are kind of pushing it now more than ever. But overall, it could have been better. Not really great.
Okay, let's move on over to Callan. What do you think, Callan?
Let's see, a lot of my notes. Back in the depths of time, so give me the depths of time here. They used to learn things in Doctor Who. No, in Doctor Who nowadays, you learn things. When they read the Russian words, somebody should have said, that's Russian. That's the Cyrillic alphabet. Just so kids could learn things. Just a wee chunk of information here, there, a nugget there, here. Yeah, that'd be cool. No, I'm not going to tell you anything nowadays. The humans raising evolution to a different life form. That's been done in many, many things, which is all right. When I say run, I think I was using the faceless ones, but it might be using Doctor Who before the faceless ones. I don't mean the message. Well, if you don't like climate change, if you don't agree with climate change, and I agree with some things that have been said, I certainly heard that there wasn't people setting fires in Australia, but AJ is closer to it than me. You'll maybe know, or maybe been misheard. Anyway, that's all for me.
Connor Farley.
Yeah, it started off all right. Actually, I will give it that. I think it started off like I enjoyed the storyline about it being Earth up until the point right at the end. Yeah, so like everyone else. It was interesting, kind of seeing it from the perspective of it being Earth, because we saw Gallifrey last week as a desolated planet, so it's kind of like similar. We're seeing the theme developing here. The mutated humans was a good concept. I did like the dregs, but they, like Philip said, they weren't used and utilized as well as they could have been. There was some shoddy CGI. When they escaped the crashed truck, there was a dreg outside of it thumping his chest and roaring. That CGI was horrible. That is the worst CGI I've seen on the show in probably 10 years. And it was so eye-soaringly noticeable that it just took you right out of it. I'm trying to not get too politically minded about this episode because it'll just irate me. But because Texas Tim said what he did, I feel more comfortable now, kind of like going into that area. Yeah, the nutty left banging their drums once again. to the climate change tune. Why don't you, for a change, give the moderate right a voice for once? I mean, it's what could possibly harm? What could the harm be of doing that? Why don't you not take all these facts about how it's human beings that are responsible for climate change at face value and just kind of like analyze it for a second and present both sides of the argument? Likewise, right at the beginning, where they were berating Kane, who was a brilliant character. I really liked Laura Fraser and also Bella in this episode. Instead of berating her for creating a business and being a capitalist, they decided, oh, well, we're just going to, like, you know, business is bad, capitalism is bad. So obviously, then again, that's another left-wing point. I think we get told so much, really, I think, not to talk about politics because politics is not an endearing topic. But wake up, people. You can't avoid it now because it's on TV. You're getting preached at by an alien with two hearts that is created and indirectly and directly being responsible for more atrocities than some of the worst dictators on this planet in human history. You're getting dictated to how you should be thinking and feeling by that every week these days, particularly in the Chibnall era. It's a step up from Series 12, certainly, but my God, I'm absolutely sick to death of the preachy nature of just average TV these days, particularly TV shows. We don't need it. And if you are going to be preachy, maybe be less preachy and create a more balanced argument for both sides rather than just the nutty left. Just because Greta Thunberg, or whatever her bleeding name is, that little brat told you what to think on the news one day. You know, what? Just stop being so close-minded and look at both sides of the argument, because there's good points in both. You know, it's just, I'm absolutely gobsmacked that the BBC has become such a peddler for left-wing propaganda nonsense, as Doctor Who evidently has, and other factions within the BBC, like the news, etc. Yeah, it's unfortunate, really, that, because I'm a politically minded person. I'm probably more so political than most people in my generation. But I know that it's not an endearing topic. And I know that it angers a lot of people. And I know that it doesn't necessarily make for great entertainment. So just leave it out for once. You know, it's not hard. You don't have to make a message about how all human beings are evil for eating meat or using plastic or all that crap, you know, that the fucking nutters are. Yeah, exactly. Plastic straws. All that sort of stuff. You know, it's just leave it out. God.
Go to Elijah. All right, go ahead.
A little change of subject here. So I'll start off with the positives of this episode. I did like the concept of the oxygen running low and that they had to kind of conserve what oxygen they had left. And I thought the monster was pretty cool and pretty scary. And it was kind of cool that they kind of touched upon it just a little bit, that the doctor's been kind of moody after finding out what happened to Gallifrey. Now let's go to the negatives. James Buckley was wasted in this episode. Once again, this was another episode where, you know, you announce a guest star trying to get people in to watch it, and then the character's just wasted. The Benny thing got really annoying. She's yelling, "Benny, Benny, Benny," all the time. And the little boy kind of reminded me of young Anakin, you know, how he knows how to fix things. And the directing of this episode was just really bad. The handheld shots were just so sloppy and not straight and consistent. So I'm really hoping that this was the filler episode of the season, but that's all I have to say for now.
Oh my goodness gracious. For one, what gets me is this, you know, that everyone's always saying do this, do that. And I don't want to get preachy myself, but we've only been engaged in major industry for less than 200 years in the 4.5 billion year history of this planet. That's fact. If you're sitting above a certain parallel in the United States, where you were 20,000 years ago was underneath a 2-mile thick ice cap. That's fact. Climate changes. And I don't think there's anything we can do about it, to be honest with you. Matter of fact, like I said, less than 200 years now, we've had the Environmental Protection Act, the Clean Air Act. The factory I work at has had zero landfill for years. Everything's recycled, used, and redone on site. Yet we're still this evil entity that's going to wipe each other out. Where have I heard that before? Mankind's eventually going to degenerate and turn into this evil, savage race. Where have I heard that at? The time machine. Yeah, that's why I was glad AJ brought that up. Because it's like, we've covered this message before. And that's what really upset me. Like I said, if they had, people were saying Series 11 was preachy. Like I said before, this is what preachy looks like. Exactly. When you sit there and you devote the last couple minutes of your episode lecturing people as to why, you're going to wipe out your own planet. And I'm like, people are not just sitting there doing nothing about it. We've been doing our best to try to, preserve the ecology and all that. We've got people out there who've been doing this for decades. But apparently nothing's ever enough. We're all these evil-looking creatures. All right, but that's me. I'm enough preaching. Yeah, that's what really upset me about this episode. It started off so well. It had a good premise. It could have really turned into a good story. Maybe if it had a lot more length to it, and maybe if you'd made it like a colony of Earth that had gone wrong or something like that. But going back to the old, it's actually Earth in disguise was really anticlimactic because it's been done to death. It really has been. But okay, let's get to the board because I see hands are already going up. Oh, wow. A lot of hands up. Okay, let's start with BFIG. Go ahead.
If I wanted to sort of try and salvage something from the wreckage, I would say that the actors in question, including Jodie, there are aspects that Jodie was a better Doctor for the most part in this episode. The bits with Kane and say, I could make you out of some crayons and a tin of Spam, to be honest with you. The Doctor was actually doing stuff, making an ion barrier or something like that. It was. So there were aspects, to be honest with you, that was good. There wasn't any of the sonic fixes or business stuff. And that was quite good. But the thing is that it's heavy-handed, that, where you've got a good-looking monster, but then the first people that you meet at the base is basically a furry in a squirrel costume and a guy with green hair. It reminds you of Doctor Who, perhaps of a different year or time that we would care to forget, that had often been made fun of. I think they I'm not quite sure whether they were going to try and go for a comedy balance at that point. It just seemed it didn't know where it wanted to go. I would have expected, and I would have liked the Doctor to go more off at Kane, to be honest with you, because she was just completely heartless in killing Benny, to be honest with you, even though he said he wanted to shoot you, so I just shot him. She didn't try and actually broker some sort of peace or some sort of a mutually beneficial agreement, which Doctors in the past potentially would have done, even though it's an apex predator. There's the idea of, maybe not everyone's bad here, or perhaps it's actually not the dregs who are at fault. That could have been something that could have been explored, but it just seemed to be, no, this is the thing that we want to say. So what we've got to do is, get past these guys who are pretty much, like Tim said, disposable. Help a small child when we need you the most. I think is pretty much sums it up. It just fell apart, which is a shame because all the actors were doing the best that they could, but the writing again just seems to be the thing that lets it down. Ed Heim's previous episode, the actors were on point, but it's just a case of, maybe this isn't the right format for him.
Matter of fact, I was sitting here thinking to this whole episode, if the future kind had looked like these guys. That would have been really awesome. But that was another episode a long time ago. Okay. William, what do you got to say?
This episode could have been saved if the daughter instead of being like you said, an eco terrorist, whatever, found out that her mother was using this thing then instead of it being the remains of planet Earth, there was just something like you said, like a colony or something else that these beings were either like hitting super soldiers or weapons from the time war like that's why the mom was making money off this thing to discover them and she think she could sell them and make more money off it. That would have been a better plot line right there. Not this about this was remains of the planet Earth, and then these are humans that evolved to survive there. If what I said could have been used as a plot of the main plot, this episode could have been much better. It could have been easily saved like that. That's what I'm saying.
Matter of fact, I just remembered. I was glad Beef mentioned -3 or whatever her name was at the beginning, because when I saw her, the first thing that popped into my mind was this. Barf from Spaceballs. I'm like, is this her? This is like Barf's sister, something like that.
That's what I said.
Graham, go ahead.
Yeah. Again, I've got to agree with Beef. There was points in this. I was watching Jodie, especially in the scenes with Kane, and she was absolutely brilliant. But again, the writing just fell apart towards the end. I just want to point out, guys, now if you're watching this after it goes up on YouTube and you disagree with said our comments when it comes to the said political view of this episode, and you're an environmentalist and an activist on the whole fight against climate change, hell, that's fine. Go about your day, no problem. But we're not here to slight anybody for having a different viewpoint. But sometimes it's best to see both sides of the story. And hell, I see that Katie Manning put a tweet out tonight praising this episode. That's obviously her shtick. She's active on that side of things, and that's she's well within her right to be so. So yeah, just remember, folks, we might have different opinions when it comes to a certain topic, but we're not here to slight anybody. And as you were, and go about your day. On to next week.
I got to agree with what Graham said. I'm not here to slight anybody. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. It's not like we're doing absolutely nothing. That's the point I'm trying to press home. There are people out there who have been working on this. There's laws that's been passed and stuff like that. They just don't seem to ever get mentioned, though. But okay, Josh, your turn. Go ahead. You got to unmute. There you go.
There we go. Sorry. I forgot to say in my initial review that for some reason, I don't know why, but the Tranquility Spa was reminding me of the Happiness Patrol. It kind of gave me that vibe. And then going back to the whole climate change thing, like, I don't have a problem with climate change or anything like that, but it was just how they went about it. They didn't really have an argument or show both sides. It was just kind of like, you screwed up as humanity, now deal with it kind of thing. Instead of being like, we could all do our part, and companies have been terrible with like fossil fuels and natural gas and stuff like that. It was just like, humanity's the one that screwed up, so deal with it. And it was just not good. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Well, it's nice to see that they finally found something to do with the Astrodome. But what I was going to say was that the doctor was actually inconsistent at one point. She runs up to the green-haired guy towards the end and saying, "You need to fix this. You're the only one that can do it." And this is after what we watched her tear apart everything and refix everything in about 2 seconds earlier in the episode. So I think that was a bit of inconsistency on her part. But yeah, and regarding the Green Death, again, same message, but a lot more subtle, wasn't it? I mean, that was over 6 weeks, way back then. Everybody knows Barry Letts was a bit left of center, as they would say, which was fine. I mean, he was talking about something they used to talk about back then. They were worried about the future of the planet because of pollution and all this other stuff. And he was right, but it did it very subtly, didn't he? I mean, it's a classic Doctor Who story. It doesn't bang you on the head saying, do this now or else, you know. And it'll be interesting to see if all the doctors are lining up to copy this speech at conventions like they've done with previous speeches that the recent doctors have had. I doubt it. I doubt it. This is just too damn preachy. They'll clear a room quickly.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, am I right in thinking Laura Fraser were in Under the Lake and Before the Flood?
No, this was her
Breaking
first
Bad.
appearance. Yeah. As far as I know, yeah, this is her first appearance in Doctor Who. So
I think she was previously in Breaking Bad, wasn't she, for a few seasons?
Series 5, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, AJ.
Yeah, two things for me from when they found out, you know, it was Earth with that Russian sign. One is funny, and one is a way to improve the story a little. The first one is where they find out it's Earth again, and the Doctor drops to her knees and does a Charlton Heston impersonation from the end of the Planet of the Apes. I thought that would have been hilarious to see. And to fix the story, instead of having the climate change boogie monster out there, she could have said, there are many factors that play into what we see here. Some natural disaster, maybe even man-made disaster. Hell, we don't even know how far in the future we are. Something like that to say, you know, it's a multitude of things that could have happened. It could be 100,000 million years into the future. You don't know. We're halfway through the planet's life cycle right now, and, you know, it's constantly changing. So I don't know why they didn't just, you know, put that little extra effort in there to say it could be anything.
Well, they did also mention there'd been a global war of some type. So I got to remember to mention that as well. So it was kind of a post-apocalyptic deal on top of all that. Okay, Connor.
Just one final point on my little political meanderings. The left love collective responsibility. They love blaming human beings as a collective force for all the problems in the world. The rich are always responsible for poverty, blah, blah, blah. You know, the right-wing leaders are responsible for propagating war. I think my issue with it is that they always find an excuse every couple of months to beat us over the head with something new, a new excuse to hate humankind. And that's why I can't take political messages like this too seriously, because they'll change their mind in 6 months and they'll decide to, you know, cling on to something else, like for dear life. Another reason to hate us and another reason why mankind is going to end in 2 years because, you know, we're doing this and we're not doing enough. But to get back to the episode and kind of like the structure of it, I was stunned actually how quick we got into the action. It was very fast paced, particularly the first half. The body count ratcheted up about to 10 people within the first 5 minutes of the episode. It was refreshing to watch for a monster story, especially something that is by definition a filler episode. And yeah, like I said previously, Laura Fraser and the girl who played Bella, who I would put in the same category as a Shona, a Journey Blue, or Marvin Christie, who Paul was thinking of, I think, from Under the Lake and Before the Flood, as potential companion material. I would, you know, she really, for me, she was the emotional center of. I was really quite gutted actually when she decided to sacrifice herself. There was a lot of self-sacrifice in this, wasn't there? I noticed there must have been about 4 instances of it. Which I don't know, it gets kind of cheap about the 3rd time they do it, maybe even the 2nd. But yeah, I thought that she was really good companion material. A bit like a badass Martha Jones, I thought. She looked a bit similar to Freema as well. So yeah, while I think that, you know, the characterization of some of these side characters wasn't great, yeah, I think Laura Fraser and Bella was certainly well written, even though their relationship and that sort of parental, you know, parent-daughter thing wasn't so much. They were certainly somewhat endearing as characters, even though Kane was a bit of a hard ass, cold-blooded, guess you could say, single-minded person. There was still elements there I really enjoyed of her characterization, to be honest.
I just kind of wish, that Kane hadn't shot Benny. Do you imagine what would have happened, if Benny had teamed up with the Dregs? They could have been one of the greatest bands in the universe. Benny and the Dregs. Okay, Beef.
But I'm sure, as much as the body count was great, what will please Connor immensely is they all looked like hipsters. So there was always a plus point and a slight bit of balance to the proceedings. If I want to give another thing that was positive, because it's easy to just harp on about the stuff that doesn't work and wasn't good, was I liked the tannoy system at the spa. I thought that was amazingly funny, to be honest with you. In the same way that you had Gus in Mummy on the Orient Express, it was sort of everything was temporarily malfunctioning, but it's done in such a very casual, pleasant tone to put everyone at ease. So I thought that was a good thing. I like that. Hipsters dying, which was good. But it's hard not to get sucked back into saying, well, that was bad. It's just everything seems to be an idea that's underdeveloped, which is the problem. They've said that they've evolved to survive a nuclear war. We have to do changing laser weapons to destroy them. They can run at 35 miles an hour, and we've got, don't worry, smart breathing devices that deliver oxygen to you with a swimming clip through your nose. But poor old Benny still has to wheel around a tank of oxygen because they can't think of a smart solution. It's just like a means to an end, sadly.
Yeah, just a lot of little things. I got to agree with you. Suddenly the doctor can't fix teleport. Yeah, he's walking around with an oxygen tank. Yet everybody can carry one on their forearm now, and it's like, okay, William.
I noticed an error that was in this episode that when everybody was in the vehicle and by the time they was getting attacked, I noticed outside, it's scenery outside, they show trees. And since remember, they said that besides the dome where everybody was at, there was nothing outside besides the dregs, but there was nothing living out there. But you see trees. It wasn't CGI trees; they were real trees. I said, "What happened? Wait a minute. There's oxygen there. So why you not using the trees to get oxygen? It makes no sense." And another thing, I liked it. I liked it how Ryan was, you could say, trying to, get a relationship with this girl like that. And then Yaz is look like upset or jealous out of it. I said, look, man, if you have feeling for Ryan, go tell him, man. Don't wait till the 10th episode to say anything about it, because this thing has been going on for a while. Tell him before he ends up not being seen anymore like that. If you have any feeling whatsoever for him, or let him date your sister like he asked in the first episode. I mean, that's all I got to say right there.
Or was it just me, or was the daughter character just too much of a Ryan clone? Anybody else got all the exact same things except the dyspraxia?
Well, they're both thumbsuckers, so.
But also, yeah, I agree with you on the trees. I saw that and I'm like, I thought this was supposed to be a completely wasted planet. There's trees. It's like, wait a minute. It's like, this is like watching an episode of The Walking Dead and somebody mowed their lawns that week. Yeah, it's the dead have been walking around for how many years, but all the lawns are still mowed. Okay, Graham.
Just getting back to Beef's point about hipsters dying. I'm sorry, I'm a selfish bastard, and I don't apologise for it, but when dear old Velma met her maker, I jumped and pump-fisted the air. What an annoying old bitch she was. Benny. Sorry, Velma, you just wanted my cup of tea, dear, and you should have died sooner. But with my tongue firmly in my cheek, I asked the question, has Greta Who started trending on Twitter yet?
Benny and the Dregs. Okay, AJ.
Two stupid things that really annoyed me about this episode. One, they're escaping from the dregs from the bus or whatever. They go into the tunnel and leave the tunnel open for them to be followed. The other thing, why didn't the doctor use her respiratory bypass system? So her oxygen will have lasted 3-4 times as long.
Because it was to show the fact that the oxygen was coming from the dregs to prove that they were human.
I know, but still, they sacrificed something major there for a plot point again. And it just, you know, okay, back to Connor.
Yeah, hipsters dying is always a plus point. That Vilma, yeah. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed her for about the total amount of like 10 seconds. But I think one tweet, actually, I did see a very, very funny tweet in the aftermath of the episode saying that if you feel like you have to die because your other half has also died, then that's not a very healthy relationship in the first place. That's codependent as fuck. So, you know, you should probably, like, look into that with a querying mind as to what they've been getting on with for the 84 years that they were together, or however long. I think, yeah. One thing I did like, actually, was the cinematography in the wastelands where the dregs were. Reminded me a bit of Genesis of the Daleks right at the beginning with the, where the mines were. I liked that. And, that sort of like washed out grey, teal coloured sort of setting. That's always really great, I think, for setting a sort of apocalyptic, kind of serious tone. And I think whoever the cinematographer on this episode was, or the director even, Lee Haven Jones, did do a good job there. But as I mentioned, there was some very, very, very shoddy CGI that should have been better managed, because I don't know whether they were a practical effect or whether they were all CGI. But that was the only one that looked that bad. And that's a bit of a letdown, because it's just one of them. It's not like, we're not going back to 80s Who, where it's shaky sets and terrible designs and all that sort of stuff. Even though, like Beef said, it did feel a bit like a love letter to 80s Who, with all the crazy coloured hair and all the costumes and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think there was credit to be given the way that the wasteland, I'll call it, scenes were shot. It was a very involving environment and a very very visceral way of seeing it, really. Even though in the end it turned out that actually it was all our fault and that we should be dragged out into the streets and shot for being disgusting human beings.
And how many here, when you saw the crawler going through that, valley or wherever it was, the first thing that popped into my head was Damnation Alley. I don't know, really bad movie from back in the late 70s.
I was thinking of Aliens.
Oh, okay. But that's what that thing reminded me of. Damnation Alley popped into my head. Okay, Callan.
Yeah, I think he's right about the doctor needs less oxygen than humans. To speak to Connor's point, though, if he thinks there's going to be a change of heart in 6 months, this has been ongoing for a long time, this climate change. If he thinks there's going to be like a change of heart in 6 months, I smell bet. On you go.
Okay, well, we've been going on for a bit over an hour on this, but okay. It's just a lot of people call me a shill and all that, but when I see bad, I gotta say bad. This episode started off with so much promise. It could have really been something phenomenal. Maybe if it had more time to develop and they hadn't really gone down. And as a matter of fact, as I told my wife after we got done, if they had just cut that speech off the end of it, I could have maybe given this thing another point or so. But, I got to call it like it is. Okay, speaking of calling it like it is, it's, Neo, you got your hand up. Let's go to you real quick, then we'll go to rating.
Yep, I just got 2 things. First thing, I love that computer AI system, especially when everything started going to crap. If you are in this spot, you should not be here. It's like, okay, that's different. And about the speech, I wanted to see if there would be any fallout because of that speech. Because you notice in the next time trailer, you didn't see any other companions, did you?
I didn't watch the next time trailer. I got to do that yet, but because I wanted to watch the episode twice, so we skipped immediately ahead. So, all righty. So let's rate this sucker and we'll put it to bed. Starting at the top, Connor, out of 10, what do you rate Orphan 55?
6.
Okay, Callan?
Oh, just a standard for me, 7.
Oh, okay. DWC?
Just an average 5 for me.
Okay, AJ?
An unsatisfactory 4 for me. It wasn't that great.
Okay, Paul?
This gets a 10 for me, really, because it were still said Doctor Who to me, and I weren't really peed off at the political, messaging. It still said it were, for an ordinary back to normal after the big Master and Gallifrey thing. It's still, I still liked it. Yeah, it's 10 for me still.
Okay, Philip?
It's a 5 for me as well, and they need to up their game if they want to get people carry on watching, basically.
All right, Josh?
For me, it's a 4.5 because, like other people have said, like it had a lot of potential with like how it was written in the beginning for like the first 15 minutes, and then it completely went to utter crap at the end. So yeah.
All right, Graham?
This is a quick side note. Whether you agree or disagree with that speech at the end, don't confuse Jodie Whittaker, the actress, with the character she's playing here. She might well believe that, but maybe not to the extent of what she's portrayed on screen. So, but the bitches on the Twitterati will just bitch and moan anyway. For me, this gets a 6.5. Interesting start, interesting premise, and just, yeah. The house of cards came tumbling down at the end. Sorry, Edheads.
Okay, William?
4 for being poor.
All right, Lady Neo?
I'm gonna have to give this an 8.5. I did like it. It entertained me. That was the main thing I focus on anytime I watch Doctor Who. Entertained me. Bit confusing. The ending was okay.
Okay, Beef?
I'm sort of struggling somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4, to be honest with you, because it's falling down the rabbit hole of the criticisms levied against last year, which is the scripts are sort of mediocre and missing the point. There's unclear who the actual villain of the piece is and the motivations behind it. It's sad because, like I say, there was premise to it. I will probably round it off at a 4 because the initial idea was good, but it just seems to be the same pitfalls that was last year, and I hope it's going to be stepping up next week.
Okay, Elijah?
I would give this one a 5, but because James Buckley was in it, I'll give this one a 6.
Okay, Texas Tim?
Well, to quote my friend Philip, I'm going to give it 1,000 tiny zeros. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to give this a 5. It's a dog's dinner of a script that started out really well and just kind of meandered its way down to a really off-putting lecture. So they did try very hard, and it did look very good, so I'll give it 5.
And I'm with you. I'm going to give this thing a 5, and that's just out of generosity. And that's also about average, which is what it came out to be. It started out with such a good idea. It really could have went somewhere, and then it just went right down the toilet bowl. The tidy bowl man waved high as it went by. Oh, man. Well, folks, all I can say is this. Join us next week as we do another session. You'll probably be getting this episode probably on Wednesday night, maybe Thursday at the latest. So until then, everybody, enjoy yourselves. Have a good week. See you on the flip side, kiddies.
You see you.
It's just a TV show.
It's still